Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Copewell podcast. I'm really glad to be back. I had laryngitis and I don't normally batch record, so there were no podcasts for like 3 weeks, maybe four. I don't know. It's been a while. So I'm grateful to be back sharing some information. And what I wanted to talk about today is a topic that keeps coming up. It's negative thoughts, negative thinking, like how to stop negative thoughts. And it just keeps coming up in my conversations with people. So I really thought that I would just go a little bit deeper on a YouTube short that I made that already addresses this. I actually think that was the first video I ever did where I showed my face. And that was super scary for me because I still do have a fear of being seen and taking action anyway, overcoming it, just kind of deciding that what I have to share with people is so much more important than any judgments that people might have. And I just needed to get over myself. So the short is on how to stop negative thoughts or like shift away from the spiraling and the negative thought emotion pattern. I guess I call it a loop that can sometimes occur because our emotions can create our thoughts. And sometimes we have thoughts that make us feel a bigger emotion. And negative thinking affects all of us. So, and it's probably the topic that I hear about most often online. I feel like sometimes moms hop on Facebook and ask for support. So it seems to be that that's really what I'm helping people with more often than not, that and anxiety. And I'm hearing from kids and adults who have trouble falling asleep at night. I think they have these negative thought spirals at night. They can't fall asleep. And if that were happening to me, because it does sometimes, I would follow my 4 steps that I have in that YouTube short. So if you want the short version of this, definitely check out that YouTube short. And the good news is that we don't have to be a prisoner to our thoughts. So I'm going to walk you through that 4-step process today, go a little bit deeper and explain more about it. This can genuinely, sorry, my timer's going off, genuinely change the way that you relate to your own mind. And if you're someone that wakes up in the middle of the night with your brain spinning out of control, I've got some specific strategies for you too. So let's get into it. So if you're having negative thoughts, the first step is really to notice without judgment. So most of us are just kind of on autopilot and we don't even realize when we're having negative thoughts. Our thoughts are just like background noise. So we're used to thinking our thoughts are real. And if we can stop and catch ourselves and notice just that, like, if I think I'm such an idiot, that's a thought that doesn't serve me. And if you can notice without judgment, because if I have the thought, I'm such an idiot, I can't believe I just did that, you're really piling more negativity on top of that. So don't judge yourself for having the negative thought. I've talked in the past about how it's a normal part of our survival mechanism. Our brain is like trained to look for the bad or the negative. So we just want to notice it without judgment and separation. So I've called this non-identification. If you can say something like, I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough, it creates distance. And that separation is really powerful because you are not your thought. You are a person observing your thought. I've given the analogy before that if you can think of your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky, you're the sky, you're not the clouds. Okay, so you're not your thoughts. And your thoughts come and go. Clouds come and go, right? The sky just is there. So hopefully that's helpful to put that in perspective of if you can catch yourself, I keep thinking negative thoughts, this isn't helping me, I want to change it. Great. That's step one. You're there. Okay. The second step is to reframe the negative thought using the concept of dialectics. And dialectics is just a fancy word for holding seemingly opposite truths together at the same time. So it's really getting rid of that word but and using the word and. So it's yes and versus yes but. And this was really helpful in, I was supporting a student the other day who I said, you can't just get rid of negative thoughts. Your mind's on a vacuum. You've got to replace it with something positive. Can you think of some positive things about yourself? And that's super hard for someone to just, if they're in a moment of anxiety, to just stop thinking negatively. That's really not helpful. So what you need to understand is reframe the negative thought using dialectics because you're already in a negative place. So if I'm thinking, I have a good smile and I really don't feel like smiling right now. Those are two kind of opposite truths that are held together. That's not a great example of dialectics, but that is a good example of if I'm really just in a not great place right now, how I can see the truth and honor the truth without being able to go there yet, if that makes sense. Our brains really love black and white thinking. So, like, either I'm a success or I'm a failure, right? We love to go there and think bad about ourselves. But, people love me or hate me. Well, I hear that a lot too. Everybody hates me. Really? Reality is more nuanced than that. It's not everybody hates you. That's not true. So again, your thoughts come and go. They're like clouds and they're not you and they're not facts. So when you catch a negative thought, if you can see what the perspective is, what else can be true? A better example might be like, I messed up, I made a mistake, and I'm still a capable person. Do you see how that's kind of guiding the negative thought towards positivity? Or if you have to do something that you really don't want to do, or say you have a big test coming up if you're a high school student and it's super hard, like you don't get it. The situation can be really hard and you can be stressed about it. And you can try your best. And you have the ability to do hard things. And you have the ability to get through that difficult time because it won't last forever. Those are some more examples of how you can reframe using dialectics. And you're not trying to replace the negative thought with, I know we hear a lot about toxic positivity. It can't be fake, right? Your brain won't hear it. Your conscious mind won't absorb it and take it in. So you're not saying that everything is fine when it's clearly not. You're just being open to expanding your view to include another truth or more of the truth. The negative thought is only a small portion of what's real, if that's helpful. Step 3 is have some self-compassion for yourself. Practice self-compassion. Remember that negative thoughts are normal because we're human. Our brains are evolved to scan for threats and problems. And again, that's just a survival mechanism. So your ancestors used to have to be worried about the rustling in the woods or, whatever to survive. We can't just assume everything is fine all the time. So your brain is designed to be negative, to protect yourself. It's not always helpful. So understanding self-compassion, think about what would you say to yourself if you were your best friend, right? You're not going to beat yourself up. If your friend was having a panic attack or spiraling in negative thoughts, you probably aren't going to tell them that they're a terrible person for thinking something negative. You're going to be kind. You're going to remind them of the things that they're good at, remind them of their strengths. You're going to help give them a clearer perspective. And you can do this for yourself. So maybe you put your hand on your heart and say, like, I'm really struggling right now. This is really hard, and that's okay. A lot of people feel this way. I'm not the only person going through this, and I can be kind in this moment. I know it's not going to last forever. Self-compassion isn't self-indulgence. It's really what gives you the strength to make better choices and to make a change in your life. You are not going to hate on yourself for wanting to be a better version. And you can support yourself in getting there, through having compassionate thoughts. So the final step is get back control by choosing another more helpful thought. Okay, this is where we take our power back. You've noticed the thought, you've reframed it, you've shown compassion to yourself. Now we can intentionally redirect our focus onto something more positive. So ask yourself, okay, I have this negative thought. It's not helpful. What would be helpful? Maybe I can just take this one step at a time. Maybe I can recall my past wins and when I've handled hard things in the past. Maybe I'm just doing the best I can and I'm just going to take a deep breath because that's all I can do right now. Or maybe you tell yourself an encouraging phrase like, I can't figure this out, can't come up with anything right now, and that's okay because I'm having self-compassion. The thing is that you may not believe the positive thought that you're having at first, and that's okay. You're not trying to convince yourself that you're being fake or your thoughts aren't real. You're just offering your brain a different track to run on. I was on this negative track. I chose to change directions. I want to be more positive, and I'm trying to get on this other track and run this direction. Your thoughts can be very powerful and they're not facts. So you get to decide which. I'm thinking of the story of the wolf right now, the positive wolf, the negative wolf. Which one are you going to feed, when they're both hungry? You can choose to think a more positive thought. And say you wake up in the middle of the night. Don't quote me on this, but I have heard that there are certain times where you really can't control your thoughts. And I want to say it's like between 2 and 5 a.m. or 3 and 5 a.m., something like that. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and your thoughts are spiraling and you really can't get control, sometimes at night I think of horrible things from the past, like your most embarrassing moment. We can catastrophize. I think I'm saying that right, about the future. And of course, that's being in anxiety. And our thoughts can just spiral out of control. So it's going to be harder to work through those 4 steps, especially when your logical brain is offline. Sometimes it is harder to get control. And I'm going to recommend more techniques to you in those situations. Maybe you need more immediate distraction techniques to break that spiral loop, or remember that because I said earlier, your brain's not a vacuum. You can't just get rid of negative thoughts. What can you put in there? Can you replace them with something more positive? You might as well replace them with something more positive. I do have an encouraging phrase that I repeat in my brain to keep me focused on something positive and help me fall asleep. So that works for me. And you can try these. These, I think, are a little bit more fun than just repeating one encouraging phrase over and over. You could do something like the alphabet game, where you pick a category of food or animals or countries or movies and try to think of one that starts with each letter of the alphabet. This is going to occupy your brain just enough to interrupt that worry loop without being so engaging that it's going to keep you up too long. So you'll have to experiment with that and see certain times when it works for you. I explained this today working with someone. I explained the 3 states of mind. We have emotion mind, we have the logical thinking mind, and the wise mind is the balance in between. And sometimes when we're feeling a big emotion and you're fully in emotion mind, you have to engage the thinking mind to find more of a balance. So doing the alphabet game, something like that, is enough of a distraction where you're engaging your brain, running through lists of things like that you ate yesterday or naming everyone you know. There's all sorts of things you can do. A probably more simple thing is to try a body scan using your breath. Focus on your toes, tense and release different muscle groups. You can do the body scan with the progressive muscle relaxation and just notice the different parts of your body. You're bringing your attention to those different parts. This is going to activate the relaxation response and give your mind something else to focus on. I would recommend, as more of a distraction, watching, or I would want to keep my eyes closed personally, but maybe listening to a body scan recording or video. Another fun thing that you might try is to just schedule yourself a worry appointment. If you really can't stop worrying, the Scarlett O'Hara trick, tell yourself, I'm going to think about this tomorrow, but set a time. This is going to help your brain. I'm going to think about this tomorrow at 10 a.m. Literally schedule it, because your brain often just wants to make sure you don't forget about the issue, right? These thoughts are a part of you. So they're important. Pay attention to them. When you acknowledge those thoughts that, yep, it's a set time, it's a date, you're more likely to be able to just let go and be, right? Let the thought go. It knows you're going to come back to it later. And my go-to personally is the distraction. Use a distraction technique. So I gave you the alphabet game, the body scan, and make yourself a worry appointment, or you can just do a distraction. And this is kind of my default in the middle of the night. It's easiest if I'm really sleepy. I would turn on a sleep story or do my yoga nidra from Insight Timer. That's probably what I do most often, because I put theta waves in the background of my yoga nidra, and theta is the brain wave state that we're in when we sleep. Later, it's delta, but we're in theta when we sleep initially. And so it's easier for me to fall back asleep. If I'm listening to something else, again, it keeps my brain focused on something else. I don't have to worry about what to think about. The goal with all of this is not to force yourself to go back to sleep. It's just to break that spiral, to get you out of that negative state. And sometimes just stopping the worry is enough for sleep to come back naturally, right? So to recap, the 4 steps to stop the negative thoughts that I gave you in that YouTube short are: notice without judgments, reframe with dialectics, practice self-compassion, and then choose a more helpful thought, even if it's not totally positive. And when worry spirals hit in the middle of the night, have a few distraction techniques ready to try to break that pattern, and then you'll find out what works for you, depending on really how sleepy you are or what time of the night or morning it is for you. I do want you to remember that changing your relationship with negative thinking is a practice, right? So maybe it works the first time, but sometimes these skills take practice, because you're never going to eliminate the negative thoughts completely, because that's impossible. Remember, we're changing our relationship with them and how we view those negative thoughts, not with judgment, as a part of us. We're learning to relate to them in a different way, right? We're not letting them run the show. They can't drive the car, but they can be in the back seat, okay? And come along for the ride. Every time you practice these steps, remember you're rewiring your brain and growing those new neurons to a new pattern of behavior, a new way of being. Those neural pathways are going to get stronger over time, every time you practice. So you can do this. Your thoughts are not going to define you. They're just mental events passing through. They're just the clouds in the sky. You are so much more powerful than you think you are. And you have more control over your thoughts than you probably think. So that's it. That's really all I have to share about that. Thank you for listening. If you found this helpful, feel free to share it with someone who you think might need it. And be kind to your mind. Until next time, cope well, guys.